Hello, my name is Peregrine, and the biggest mystery in Overwatch is what exactly is the conspiracy? Who is this all-seeing eye? The conspiracy is responsible for a lot of things, allegedly behind the Omnic crisis by allowing Anubis to go rogue, covering up the crimes of the Super Soldier programs, reverse hacking Sombra, reforming and recreating Emre, and behind allowing Anubis to reactivate while under Helix security control. For many, the conspiracy is assumed to be Anubis or some form of god AI, perhaps one even beyond Anubis, or maybe someone from Omnica all the way back then. However, I think the answer to the conspiracy is much more grounded, realistic, and dangerous. First, let's look at what brought this video to the front of my mind. As I've said in the past, I'm kind of uninterested in the conspiracy, however I think there's some good opportunity for storytelling. In the recent comic, Growing Pains, Captain Myung was informed that the failsafe of the Korean army against the Geschwin Omnics, a giant EMP bomb, had been moved to the Mecha base with the excuse of Mecha being weakened without D.Va. This EMP was a last resort for Korea, as many will die from using it. People don't consider how dangerous an EMP is. You can kill thousands with this, with things going rogue, or I think it will just straight up shut down a lot of Omnics, and obviously people with life support machines, it will fuck with pacemakers. It's incredibly dangerous. Somewhere along the way, the fact that this EMP was moved got leaked to Talon, essentially dropping it right into their hands because, by the looks of it, the Korean military didn't even bother to try and hide this fucking EMP or even defend it. So why was this EMP moved? When it's a failsafe, a literal last resort, why was it moved? It seems like it was moved specifically for Talon to steal it. So how in the living fuck does Talon have insiders in the Korean military? What if I told you Talon weren't masterminds? What if I told you we've known who the conspiracy is for over a decade? They were here at the very beginning of the Overwatch franchise, and they have been involved in every single major tragedy, from the Oslo explosion that killed Jack Morrison and Gabriel Reyes, to the tragedy of the Inti Warriors, to the current funding cuts towards Overwatch to the UN. The identity of the conspiracy is Helix Securities International. Since the birth of modern capitalism, war has ceased being a moral crusade or a genuine attempt at seizing land. In the modern day, war is more of a money-making exercise. Politicians and everyone else in the elite class will invest millions into publicly traded war companies like defense contractors and weapons manufacturers, and then pass legislation to give these companies billion-dollar contracts from your tax payments. Then when the stock price of the company skyrockets because of these contracts, they can then sell these stocks or keep it in their portfolio to get better rates of loans, essentially making them millions of dollars overnight at the expense of just the taxpayer, and the brown people that they're going to kill in the war. Which brings me to the controversial topic of forever wars. Forever wars are wars manufactured to have no clear ending or purpose, hence, being forever. Usually started by the United States, forever wars involve completely destabilizing areas of the world which lack the firepower to fight back and are usually rich in natural resources. Think like the Middle East, South America, and Africa. Essentially, the usual pattern is like what happened in Cuba, where the US will install a dictatorship in there, then that dictator will do a lot of work with the US and ruin the country. Then when a rebel group eventually rises up and does a coup d'etat, the United States declares war on that coup d'etat, and that dictatorship that has now spawned from that. Either this, or the rebel group to a government, will be funded by the CIA and trained by the CIA to then take over that country. And then, when that group continues to be violent, they will then say, that's not our fault, they're doing it, I'm going to declare a war on them, which is essentially what happened to ISIS. Then after this, they instill a new dictator, then that dictator gets overthrown, and the entire pattern repeats as always. Hence, forever war. Recent actions by Helix Securities have led me to believe that they are spending millions to arm Talon and cause trouble in other countries, in exchange for billions worth of military contracts. For example, when Anubis escaped under Helix's control in Cairo and Farah's squad have to quell it, Helix could realistically ask for more funding to have better control of it. Another example of this is that it's been suggested in lore that the Inti Warriors weren't wiped out by Iliari, but rather than someone fucking with the machine, most likely Helix, because it would make the most sense that when your soldiers have been wiped out and you're a UN member state, you'd probably want to go with Helix Security because that's your guy. And like I mentioned before, the EMP bomb in Korea has made Mecca look incredibly incompetent, thus fueling more desire for Helix intervention. But for me personally, the smoking gun of it all comes from Overwatch Undivided, the Webtoons comic. You see, over there, the UN are refusing to fund Overwatch for reasons that are not clear, and it appears that even though the current leader of the ICJ likes Overwatch and wishes them to be funded, they cannot get it done. Almost like someone behind the scenes is pulling the strings. Now let me ask you, who exactly do you think Overwatch was replaced by after the Oslo explosion as the head of the Peacekeepers of the UN, receiving billions in funding worldwide? I bet you can't guess. That's right, once again, Helix Securities International, which Michael Chu was confirmed was created just after the Omnic crisis, before the breakdown of Overwatch. I wonder who planted the Oslo bomb. Put simply, it is my belief that Overwatch is too good at their job. They go in, secure areas, save civilians, capture villains, and research into things that can help people. And worst, and I mean worst of all, they actually want to help people, and helping people just isn't profitable. So just like in real life, the super elites who run the UN and the world in general originally created Overwatch to deal with the crisis and then continue to use them as a war machine. Yet, after the objectively correct killing of mob boss Antonio Bartolotti, it became clear to the elites that Overwatch cannot be controlled as well as they thought they could. So they used this killing as a sign that Overwatch cannot be trusted, and used their ownership of the media to convince the public that they didn't like Overwatch and that they do like Helix. This works by simply letting the people believe that they came to that conclusion by themselves, sleepwalking into multiple forever wars with a peacekeeping force that wishes them nothing but harm. But who exactly is the opponent of these wars, and why now of all times? The answer to both of these questions is vendetta.
I plot for years. I forge an army worthy of carving my name across the world. And Overwatch puts a house cat in a jetpack.
The new iteration of Talon has been notably much more hostile than the previously led version by Akande Ogundimu. Vendetta has been forcing multiple battles in different places worldwide, obtaining weapons of mass destruction. Real ones, not like the around ones. While spreading what little remains of Overwatch insanely thin, damaging their gear and agents until they run out of funding from the UN. This is a two-pronged attack from the global elites to keep the world in an abusive yet profitable status quo, using Talon as a cover story from them. But why now of all times? Talon had already existed under Doomfist and was one of the world's most powerful organisations, and the answer to that is kind of twisted. As much as Doomfist's worldview is undoubtedly dangerous and highly toxic, he's not a bad person in nature. Doomfist is not driven by greed, instead by a strict moral code in which he believes in creating a better world for humanity via conflict. As much as Doomfist wants to cause wars, he only wishes to cause wars in a way that will benefit humanity, when there is something important to be won. He is, at heart, a man who wants the best for humanity in his own fucked up way. However, in Forever Wars, there is no glory, conquest, or anything to be won other than prolonged misery and profits for the elites. Despite being born into a wealthy family himself, it has been made fairly clear over time that Akande hates those in powerful positions who didn't earn it. Thus, Akande was a threat to the global elite, as he also wishes to change the status quo. It is also a belief of mine that, similar to real life, the elites that are funding Helix Securities are exacerbating Omnic phobia, not only as a distraction from keeping the 99% from breaking their chains together, but also to fuel dangerous terrorists like Ramatra and Null Sector, in the hopes that some Omnics will eventually hijack some dropships and fly them into the north and south of Ishgard Towers, while Domina takes out a very sudden multi-billion-dollar insurance contract with a terrorist attack clause, making her a suspicious $4.5 billion, and the United States suddenly have justification to invade Omnicstan. So yeah, that's it. The people behind the conspiracy aren't god AIs, or superpowered humans, or aliens. The conspiracy are just regular-ass people that we have in the real world. And more specifically, the conspiracy is Helix Securities International. Thank you for watching, and remember, Peregrine Productions is not suicidal and has no plans on killing himself with a shotgun blast to the back of the head.
Emily, turn on the TV! They hit the fucking Pentagon! They hit the fucking Pentagon, Emily! Turn on the TV, it doesn't matter which channel!
And, of course, by legal requirement, I would like to thank my eggs, Cameron Wilson Fan, Cherry Balls, Slater Rex, The Perhapsy, Wafflers, Despair, Lord Gracos, Shroomy, Gothic Dino, Mainkeeper 433. Thank you for your continued support.